So you can do as you please, but you can't, I believe sovereignty is freedom, but you can't determine the consequences of your freedom.
Right. You can choose to step off the roof of your house, but you can't choose.
Only, well, maybe you survive that, but
Yeah.
you couldn't step off the Empire State Building more than once.
Right. Right. And even if off the roof of the house, you're still going to get injured.
Well, if it's a high, yes, but I mean, it might not kill you.
Right,
but you'll be paralyzed.
There'll be a consequence.
Yeah, you'll be paralyzed all your life.
Broken, what have you, right.
So anyway, all these things, truth and consequences. Well, I say the consequences of truth.
Yeah.
But truth and consequences?
That used to be a Bob Barker J.
Oh, yeah.
Truth or consequence.
The truth at a show. What, went over 2 or 3 years it was done,
Yeah.
because then you'd already come into cultural relevance.
It's true.
What audience are you talking to?
Now we want to go to The Price is Right.
No, I want this money.
Yeah.
Get out of town here. No, but all these influences, this is the practical problem of covering so much territory. All these things are going on in the culture in the same general milieu.
Yeah. Yeah, and they overlap each other and
They have consequences.
and they turbocharge each other like Marx's theories are kind of applied to a certain degree, like you said, by Freud, some of his assumptions.
All these things, see, have consequences. So these are, well, in a technical sense, high-level academicians.
Yeah.
Well, what do they have to do with grandma?
What do they have to do with Acts 2:38 and you're my God to thee?
What do they have to do with Acts 17 or
Yeah.
anything else in the history of the church?
Or Vacation Bible
There was a
School.
day that sick people needed religion.
Right.
But after the therapeutic mode enters the agenda, you don't go to the church.
No.
You go to what?
You go to a
Groups.
Right. Because the church is a part of the problem because it perpetuates or creates neurosis and the myth of sin that creates anxiety and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the whole company, right? All these things.
So you go from Freud then to people you've kind of already mentioned, Dilthey, Heidegger, Wittgenstein, and Gadamer. All reality is historical and they initiated the hermeneutical revolution.
See, we've had biological revolutions, physical, scientific revolutions, logical revolutions, mathematical revolution. All these moves are revolution. Radical changes, I mean, by revolution. I don't mean just moving around.
Right, but it's a shift.
The shift. So you get a Dilthey, Heidegger, Wittgenstein, Gadamer, most people. But see, when they were powerful, that was 30 years before it reached the English-speaking world.
Right.
Well, how long do you have to wait? Well, if you weren't trained in German philosophy, you wouldn't read those till the 1920s or 30s or 40s. Well, they were already ingrained by then. So the same with Crick and Monod discovered the gene code. Well, what on earth is that? There's structure in reality.
Highly complex structure.
Just put it that way. How, by any naturalistic evolution, does it evolve to complexity?
Right.
Because in any model, complexity decomplexifies. Instead of gets more complex, it gets less complex.
Right. It's kind of an entropic sort of effect.
That's it, but that's exactly, see what, that period, see all these things, everything from the universe to the structure of human existence.
Right, and everything seems highly contingent, complex, and...
But who is it that finds that? Does Grandma find out these things?
No.
Does Grandma aware of these influences? No, and doesn't even care.
And the youth minister often doesn't
don't even want you to mention it. Okay, no, I got you. And Fry,
Yeah.
this is cultural wars. We had war. All these are wars.
Mm-hmm.
Fry, origin of cultural war, and narrative and story theory of homiletics. Have you ever had any homiletics class that mentioned those?
I don't recall. I don't think so.
Okay, but the issue is that if you have a mega story, that unifies stories.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have a biblical story. We have biblical stories.
Right.
So there's no unity to the stories.
Unless there's unless you got some unifying theme, as you would have.
That's why I promise narrative as a unifying theme.
Right.
That's either right or wrong. I mean, the Bible is or isn't unified by, but it's a confrontation with this right here. So by the time you take a class in homiletics, if that's completely disassociated from everything else in the world, well, you said, well, this is advanced homiletics. It's no longer the homiletics of the 40s and 50s. What is it? Because of all these influences.
And then, I'm sorry.
No.
But then, like with the homiletics, I mean, you're preaching, but what are you going to preach is, if indeed, like fish, you've got loss of intentionality in the text. What did Paul intend to say, or what did?
See, because you don't know what Jesus intended to say from reading in the gospel.
Right.
Because once you put the community deciding, the community reinterprets, not only in the biblical period, 2nd century, 3rd century, 4th century.
Right.
So there is no normative.
Right. But thus, as you would say, fish proposes something that refutes his own work.
Well, most all this is self-refuting. But see, it never reached the ears of man because they go on and teach stuff just like they're saying something brilliant.
Because if fish is saying like Paul or the writer of like 1st or 2nd Peter, if they had no intentionality of what they meant to communicate, then how do we know what he intends to communicate with his critique?
That's no possibility. So the Bible is not the only origin of the shaft.
Right.
It's like lead art.
Right.
If there's no, it comes from the same influence, same intentionality, then there's also no intentional availability to what you're saying.
Right.
So why do you get all the money and I get nothing for listening to that? It goes on, but you're not supposed to, that's what he said. Young man, you misunderstand.
Right. And it was...
Whatever is wrong, he didn't misunderstand.
Right.
But if you answer that, if there's no intentionality, how could you misunderstand?
But
it's just your understanding.
But he's operating from his own paradigm, which he resists. He resists that data, that point that's made, because he doesn't want to let go of his paradigm. Thus, Kuhn's concept of paradigm.
And see, Kuhn, he had a physics degree, and then he saw what was going on in science. Positivism, historicism, and Kuhn's paradigm are the third great transitions in the history of science in the past 200 years. And Kuhn, when he wrote Paradigmatic Revolution, he was trying to explain the impotence of positivism and historicism, and he sets forth his theory of paradigm. Now, I haven't checked in the last 2 or 3 years. Now, I understand that all I have is need.
Yeah.
But for 50 years, he was the most referenced man
In the world.
in the world.
Yeah.
I take by that its importance.
He has some degree of influence.
And if he just reached the influence of the President of the United States, said that was one of his favorite books. But anyway, I do not believe that Kuhn was actually a relativist, but it winds up a paradigm. History of science shows shifting views. No, there's no question about that.
Right. It's not just a smooth incremental.
No, it's not incremental.
Right.
It's a paradigmatic over data.
Right.
And interpretive capability of the new data, whether it's Heisenberg or whatever they crick about this. But very few people try to put all that stuff together. So they don't have to put anything together, just their own.
Sure.
Huh?
Their own private interest or their specialization.
But see, the world is not just anybody's private interest.
No, it's
So if you're not interested in the larger world than yours, well, then there's no point talking. Well, anyway, this concept Purdy is one of the most referenced authors the past, now 55 years, but all categories refer to the concept of paradigm. What does that mean?
That means that at least that his analysis has resonated. It seems to make sense, and people now are looking at what they do, whatever it is that they do. You know, whether it's in whatever field or discipline, they say, okay, I consciously am now aware that I'm operating within a paradigm, and maybe it's
worldview.
Right, a worldview
The
paradigm.
legitimization structure.
Right. But it gives us at least the ability to be aware that, okay, we're operating with a certain set of assumptions, and maybe we're right, maybe we're wrong, maybe there's a little mix-up, maybe it needs some tweaking, but at least it makes us aware that
What causes you to see the need for tweaking?
Counterfactual data, and it creates cognitive dissonance, and we want things to make sense.
We do.
We seem to.
Isn't that what that's about?
Yeah.
How does what make sense? New information.
Right.
Now the paradigm or any past positivism don't create information. It's trying to understand information.
Right.
So it's not socially constructed.
No, it's reality bearing down on us.
It's reality that demands that, whatever that is, a rational person respond to that new data.
Yeah. Yeah, and how to account for that.
How to count? If you don't ask that question, that sounds like school, and I hated school. So
Yeah.
all I want to make money, be famous. Okay, that ends that.
Right.
You see why so many people cannot carry on intelligent conversation with most people.
Right.
I mean, it's not a cop out, because I can't do it.
Right.
But I think it's futile, and I don't want to have cardiac arrest over trying to talk with people, a telephone pole or a dead mule. So but all these influences, that makes sense to you?
Yeah, and then of course we lead to your last
Pannenberg.
Pannenberg and Gadamer.
I think I brought. There's a paperback that that Pannenberg has a preface in the book, and it's really about Pannenberg's influence in theological.
Is it Pannenberg or Gadamer's influence?
No,
Pannenberg's
Pannenberg.
influence.
Pannenberg.
In theology, right?
Yes.
So like Grenz.
All those people, non-foundational, non-judgmental. That comes directly from Pannenberg, because Grenz did his doctorate with Pannenberg.
Right. The theology of hope.
Now, therefore, you don't know anything in the past. Existentialism was the present, and hope is the future. You don't hope in the past. You don't even hope in the present. There's some chaos in the present that calls forth the demand to hope. I hope it changes.
So hope is an unfounded projection of what you'd like.
Without some justification for hope, without the creator of the universe, hope is a neurosis. Just like faith, or Freud said.
It's just a coping mechanism.
See, because if tradition, the past, that's not it.
Right.
The existential present is not it. The only place that's left is the future.